So reaction continues to pour in after the release last week of the names of the delegates for the upcoming Synod on Synodality at the Vatican. The voting delegates include, for the first time, significant numbers of women and lay people. All voters will be tasked considering proposals on how the Church can foster greater inclusion and participation. The measures will also be considered by Pope Francis. Here to share more about this is Jonathan Liedl, senior editor for the National Catholic Register, currently based in Rome. Jonathan, great to be with you today. So what can you tell us about the people participating in the Synod and how were they chosen?
Well, Tracy, those 364 delegates to the Synod, they come from all across the world, which isn't new for a Synod of bishops. But what is new is that a significant number of them are actually non-bishops. So of the 364, 26% of them are either priests, religious sisters, or lay people, including 54 women. So a definite change to the composition of a Synod of bishops, and all 364 of those delegates will be able to vote in the proceedings. In terms of how they were selected, some participants in the Synod were automatically included because they had dicasteries in the Roman Curia or ordinary members of the Synod of bishops. The majority, though, about 170 bishops, were chosen by their respective episcopal conferences in their countries. So their bishop conferences nominated them to participate in the Synod. 50 participants were papal nominations, so people specifically chosen by Pope Francis to participate in the Synod, and the remaining 90 or so are those non-bishops who participated in the continental stage of the synodal process and then were picked by Pope Francis.
Yeah, and we also know that over 20 Americans are participants in the Synod. What can you tell us about the U.S. representation?
Yeah, well, the U.S. representation in the Synod on Synodality, it's an interesting mix, not just of vocations and states of life, but also theological perspective and emphases. And we can really look at this when we see the bishops that are participating. So 5 bishops were nominated by the U.S. Conference of Bishops, so by their brother bishops in America. And those 5 include names like Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York, Bishop Robert Barron of Winona Rochester, and Archbishop Timothy Broglio, who's the president of the USCCB. But among Pope Francis's 50 papal nominations, he included 5 American bishops of his own, and those include people like Cardinal Blaise Cupich of Chicago, Cardinal Robert McElroy of San Diego. So definitely kind of 2 different sets of bishops, American bishops, with maybe some different emphases in their theology and pastoral care. But the most controversial papal nomination of an American is not of a bishop, it's of Father James Martin, a Jesuit priest who, of course, is widely known for what he describes as his efforts to make sure people in the LGBT community are more included in the church. Others, though, are concerned about his methods and the potential for changing doctrine. So those are the papal nominations. And then, of course, there are 5 non-bishops who also are included, including 2 young adults, a recently ordained priest, a religious sister who's a chancellor of a diocese in California, and then the director of adult education at a somewhat controversial progressive parish in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So definitely an interesting cast of characters.
Yeah, indeed it is. And as we know, Jonathan, promoters of the Synod have emphasized that it should be representative of the people of God. Are there any concerns that not everyone is being represented?
Well, Tracy, I think something interesting to take a look at among those 50 papal nominations, only 3 of them are from Africa. By comparison, over 20 are from Europe, and as we mentioned, 5, actually 6, are from the United States. And just to look at the numbers, I mean, the Catholic population in Africa is over 250 million, so right beneath the Catholic population of Europe and almost 4 times greater than the Catholic population in the United States. Of course, the Church in Africa is growing quicker than anywhere else in the world. So definitely a question if among those papal nominations, voices from Africa are being adequately represented, which is a concern because in previous synods, especially in the Synod on the Family in 2015, there were concerns that African voices and especially African concerns on issues of sexuality were not included in the discussion. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially because, as you mentioned, the organizers of the Synod have made the claim that this is representative of the people of God.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Jonathan, great to be with you. Thank you so much for that report. Jonathan Liedl, senior editor of the National Catholic Register. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tracy.